and good evening. It's 9 p.m. You are watching on live RTD channel. Welcome to this English news edition. Coming up, the headlines. The president had a working meeting with the director of Montpellier Space Center. Djibouti, South Sudan signature of a memorandum of understanding between the two energy ministers. And the international scene government of Prime Minister Hassan Diab reveals in Lebanon. Those were the headlines. Thanks for joining us in our newsroom. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Margili, had a working meeting this morning at the Presidential Palace with the Director of the Space Center of the University of Montpellier, Professor Laurent Dutsdo. The professor gave a presentation on a project to create the nanosatellites and the step to follow and to acquire this high-performance technological tool. The Minister of Higher Education and Research is Mr. Nabil, and the Secretary General of the Ministry of Higher Education attended the meeting. This ambitious project aims to create a nanosatellite made in Djibouti, which consists of the training young Djiboutian researchers who will be sent to the University of Montpellier to become space technology executive and will have the task of creating a nanosatellite. The nanosatellite, also called mini satellites, is a specific weighing between 100 and 500 kilogram, which is an engine of the growth and has the role of providing data in different files such as scientific research, agriculture, industry, disaster management, and climate change. At the end of his meeting with the head of state, the Professor Dutso returned to the point discussed with the head of state. Let's listen to him.
D'un programme spatial basé sur ce qu'on appelle des nanosatellites, c'est-à-dire des petits satellites qui font entre 1 et 10 kilos. Ce sont des petits satellites qui permettent un accès à l'espace relativement facile, mais qui peuvent rendre de grands services à l'échelle d'une université, d'un pays.
For his part, the Minister of Higher Education and Research, Dr. Nabil Mohammed, and welcomed the visit of the Professor Director of Space Center of the University of Montpellier. He welcomed the initiative of the nano satellites and talks the center existing between the Montpellier directors. His Excellency the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed received this morning a higher-level Turkish delegation led by the Director General of the International Healthcare Association, Mohammed Ali, at his office, and the Prime Minister in his office, a working meeting, a visit in Djibouti. The Prime Minister discussed with the Turkish delegation the bilateral relation and cooperation existing between Djibouti and the two brotherly Turkey countries, especially the health file and the discussion was consisting the ways to implement the memorandum of understanding signed in August 2019 between Djibouti and the International Health Care Association, which plays an important role in the communicating with the Turkish health institution regarding health service contracts on the international scenes. And in another context, the Secretary of State, His Excellency the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, received a higher delegation from the Harar region, led by the president of the region, Dr. Ordin Badri, on a working visit with the mayor of Harar, Mr. Mekeli. At the beginning of this meeting, the Prime Minister welcomed the President of the Harar region with a warm welcome and warm wishing him access in his political duties. The official talks centers on the existing bilateral relation between the two countries and means of enhancing the development them to broader and the horizons. Finally, the delegation thanked the minister for the kind reception and generosity. For his part, the Secretary General in charge of decentralization, Mr. Hamadou Muhammad Aramis, received in his office a higher delegation led by the President of Harar region, Mr. Ordin Badri, in a working visit with the Mayor of Harar, Mr. Mekili. Details in this report.
Decentralization, Hamadu Muhammad Aramis this morning welcomed a strong delegation from the Harar region of Ethiopia. The delegation was composed of Mr. Odem Bedre, President of the Harar region, Mr. Khalid Alwan, spokesman of the Harar National Congress, Mr. Abdul Karim Abdul Malik, Director of Urban Development of the City of Harar, and Mr. Bakkale Temezgi, Mayor of the City of Harar, and Dr. Muhammad Sheikh Hassan, Prefect of Arta Region, and Mr. Ilmi Buh Godade, President of Arta Regional Council. The delegation is visiting Djibouti in the framework of a twinning project between the town of Harar and Arta, which have similarities in social and cultural terms. The main aim of the twinning will be to exchange knowledge, experience, and share know-how in all economic, social, and cultural fields.
A high-level ministerial delegation from the Republic of Southern Sudan, led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, His Excellency the Ayud Deng, paid a 48 hours working visit to Djibouti from 19 to 22 January 2020. Details in this report.
Was received at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, spokesman for the government, Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. After a meeting with the Djiboutian Foreign Minister, the delegation had a working meeting with the Djiboutian side led by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and composed of the Minister of Equipment and Transport, Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. The delegation had a working meeting with the Djiboutian side led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and composed of the Minister of Equipment and Transport, Mr. Musa Muhammad Ahmed, the Minister of Trade, Hassan Muhammad Ibrahim, the Minister of Energy, Yunus Ali Gede, the President of the Ports and Free Zones Authority, and the collaborators of the Djiboutian ministers were present. After the opening addresses by the two heads of delegation, the working meeting focused on the ways and means of revitalizing bilateral cooperation in several sectors with a view to achieving better economic integration between the two countries, which would be mutually beneficial.
In her speech, the Sudanese Minister of Foreign Affairs pointed out the ways and means to enhance bilateral cooperation in many sectors in order to reach economic integration. Let's listen to her.
We have come to the end of our meetings that we have been conducting since yesterday and today. And we had very, very fruitful meetings in deepening our bilateral relations between South Sudan and Djibouti. We had several projects, but this particular time we had focused on how to connect South Sudan and Djibouti by roads and by air. It is important because it is going to boost our economic and trade and business between the two countries. Roads are important key drivers in economic growth, and it is important that we connect Africa to each other. And it is important that businesses are done to improve the livelihood of our population for the two countries. We have come to an end with action that we need to work very hard on roads, on air to facilitate the movement of the people and the goods. Djibouti has provided the facilities that can be a model in Africa, where you have a free trade zone, which is a facility available for any country in the region to use, and even internationally. It can be used to help in promoting economic growth. And also the road infrastructure and telecommunication infrastructure. These are the key drivers in economy. And we feel that we have facilities that we can share. Our countries are rich. South Sudan is a rich country. And sharing the experience with the Republic of Djibouti, even on capacity building between the two countries to share this experience is going to be very important.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, mentioned that the delegation of South Sudan touched on several files, including the commercial and communication file. He recalled that both sides on the sidelines of these talks conclude a memorandum of understanding between the energy minister and both countries and recall to the meeting between the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Sudan and his delegation. In the afternoon on Monday, 20 January, the Minister of Bridge and Roads of the Republic of South Sudan, His Excellency Simon Mijok, was received by the Minister of Equipment and Transport, Musa Muhammad Ahmed, in his office. The Director of Transport, Dileita Sultan, and close collaborators of the Minister of Southern Sudan were also present during the visit. The discussion focused on Road Transport Corporation, particularly on the Djibouti Corridors project, which runs from Djibouti to Juba via Ethiopia and Sudan. During the meeting, it was discussed how national airlines could benefit from the project by serving the two capitals. In addition, ways and means of strengthening economic ties, particularly in the infrastructure sectors, were discussed. Lastly, the Minister of Equipment and Transport of Djibouti recalled the historical relation between the two countries and expressed the wish to strengthen economic and fraternal ties. The Southern Sudanese ministerial delegation on a working visit to Djibouti and led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs to the Sudan yesterday visit the Mirjuk Industrial Development Project. On the spot, the delegation was welcomed by the chairman of Djibouti Port and Free Zones Authorities, Mr. Abubakar Omar Hadi. The Minister of headed a large delegation composed of 4 ministers, including the Minister of Trade, the Minister of Roads and Bridge, the Minister of Petroleum, as well as the technical team, the port, Abubakar Omar Hadi, then led by the minister and her companions to the future old before taking them to the new commercial building. In this building, the two guests were able to discover the different parts of the project. It should be noted that His Excellency the Sudanese former Foreign Affairs Ministerial had already come to Djibouti last October for a plenary visit. On her speech, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sudan thanked the President of Port and Free Zones for the visit she made. For more details, let's listen to her.
This is a very good experience for us in South Sudan, in Africa. I see the model in Djibouti for the international free zone trade as a very good model, that many of us in Africa can learn from it and share the experience Djibouti has. It will also be good that whatever is happening in this country can also help other countries in Africa to share and to see how we can move, especially the projects that will help integration in Africa. So South Sudan is exposed to this experience, and we will see the best way to share the experiences that Djibouti has. And I'm sure many countries has come here to look at the model in Djibouti. And we feel that Africa doesn't have to invent the wheel when there are already projects which are promoting economic growth, improvement of livelihood of the people in Djibouti, in Africa. This free zone is not for Djibouti. It is an open free zone for international, for the continent, to use the facilities available, but also take this experience to their countries. So we feel that Djibouti has taken the lead in this model in Africa, and we will try our level best as we work for a peaceful environment in our countries to use the experience Djibouti has to improve economic growth in our countries and also improve the livelihood of our people in the continent.
In his intervention, the president of Port and Free Zone, Bakr Umar Hadi, had made a speech in which he made for this occasion. Let's listen to him.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to receive this high-level delegation from South Sudan, led by Her Excellency the Minister for Foreign Affairs. South Sudan and Djibouti has a very close relationship. Is that we are the same people-to-people relations. Although the distance separating us is quite far.
The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, and the President of the Education Relief Foundation, Sheikh Mansour bin Musalam, co-chair a meeting that focused on the state of preparation for the summit on balance and inclusive education. Details in this report.
The minister first welcomed the choice of our country to host the third summit of the World Forum on Balanced and Inclusive Education, a choice that can be explained by the characteristics of our Djiboutian school that meets the criteria of inclusion and quality. He then paid tribute to all the people and institutions that have mobilized to carry out the preparations for the organization of this summit. The minister encouraged the members of all the organizing committees and called on them to redouble their efforts to complete the preparations within the allotted time. These words were shared by the President of the Education Relief Foundation, Sheikh Mansour bin Musalim, who thanked the President of the Republic and the entire government of Djibouti for hosting and co-organizing this forum. Afterwards, he praised the professionalism of the members of the commissions and the perfect collaboration with the members of the ERF. Then the chairman of each of the sub-commissions reviewed their preparatory work and outlined the major challenge ahead of them. After exchange and reflections, the minister and the president of the ERF agreed with the presidents of the commission on a deadline for finalizing the preparations.
As part of the National Week of Social Action, the Minister of Social Affairs and Solidarity launched this morning the first Solidarity Market for the most disadvantaged families, an initiative carried out by the Ministry of Social Affairs in close collaboration with Djibouti's civil society movement. It is indeed an opportunity for the association and individuals to support the most disadvantaged families by offering them food products known as basic necessity and other items essential to their daily life. The events which took place at the Wahlidaba Community Development Center in Balbala Commune was attended by the hundreds of beneficiaries' families. The objective of the free market is to promote exchange and mutual aid between members of the same community while helping to improve the standards of living of the most cost disadvantage, a sort of moneyless shop, which is characterized by the place of collaboratives giving affairs in Djibouti that aims to promote the economic of giving, which is both social and supportive, circular and collaborative. The Minister of Women and Families, Ms. Mumina Muhammad Hassan, Vice President of the UNFD Hasna Muhammad Bilil, and the beneficiaries, women from the civil society, took part. The beneficiaries of this civic act thank the organizers of this event, in particular the Minister of Social Affairs and the Solidarity, Ms. Muna Usman Aden. The Minister of Women and Families, Mumina Ahmed Hassan, also praised the tangible effort of the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity for the organization of this event, which she said we hope to multiply in the coming years. For her part, the Minister of Social Affairs and Solidarity, Ms. Muna Usman Aden, welcomed the initiative, which promotes living together, sharing, and mutual aids among the population. She did not fail to congratulate the association, which spared no effort to ensure the success of the organization of this solidarity market. The Minister of Muslims Affairs and Culture, Mumin Hassan Barre, accompanied by a strong delegation, went last Friday, January 17, to India to attend the ceremony of launching of the shooting of the first films on Djibouti produced by the company Nile and Blue Hills Motion Picture. Details in this report.
The ministerial delegation is composed of the Minister of Budget, Interior and Justice, as well as the Attorney General and the Director of Tourism. It should be noted that Nile and Blue Hill Motion Pictures is one of the Indian companies operating in the field of cinematography, managing the cinema at Boadi Mall in Djibouti. The presence of the Minister of Culture at the ceremony allowed to exchange with filmmakers and professionals of the seventh art in order to develop and promote the image of our country to the film industry. Indeed, the Nile and Blue Hill Company, in cooperation with the Djibouti Institute of Arts and Cinematography, will continue filming this film in Djibouti for several weeks, starting next February 15. Several cultural and natural sites have been selected to make this film. The film will be translated into several international and national languages. This achievement contributes to the promotion of Djibouti culture and the development of tourism between Djibouti and India. The economic and cultural impact will be significant in that the film industry is becoming a factor in generating employment and creating new dynamism in all of our country's socio-economic sectors.
In his speech, the Minister of Justice, Hassan Bahdon, said, we always want to have an Indian films made in Djibouti because we have been watching an Indian films. Details in this report.
For this wonderful trip, it was very surprising for us to discover this industry. We always wanted to have Indian movie made in Djibouti because we used to watch Indian movies in Djibouti from a long time ago. Even if we don't understand it, all families, they used to watch that and understand very clearly and explain and follow the steps. So it will be a great honor to welcome you all to make this wonderful trip. And then Indian people will discover how big is Djibouti. It's small by size, but big by diversity. You have a wonderful lake that is located under 158 meters below the sea level. So you can swim in your airplane, being in your airplane and be under the sea level. That's a wonderful thing. We have mountains, we have a green area, we have so much diversity in this small country. And we have a lot of things to share with India. So we will welcome you with great pleasure in Djibouti. Once again, thank you and congratulations.
For his part, the Minister of Culture, Mumin Hassan Barre, said he was delighted to be with you in this beautiful country that it is India. Let's listen to him.
And big honor to me and my colleague from Djibouti to be today with you here in your great country, India, and especially your very beautiful city, Koji, to participate in launching ceremony of our film, co-producer by Djibouti and India. Our country, Djibouti, would like to establish cultural cooperation with India in this area. The main area of cooperation could be in training, filming, or shooting films, production, and distribution of films. Djibouti established Djiboutian Film Agency or Institute, which is responsible for contributing to the revival and promotion of the cinema, which first production date was back to the 1917. So I would like to invite all of you to come in my country, Djibouti, to shoot films in the extraordinary cultural sites and the natural landscapes of my country, which has become a site for shooting many historical famous films such as The Planet of Apes. Finally, I would like to thank all of you for your warm welcome and for your attention.
A large Djiboutian delegation led by the Minister of Labor in charge of administrative reform, Mr. Isman Ibrahim Roble, and including 2 senior officials from his department, participated in the works of the Forum on the Harmonization of Labor Migration Policies of East African countries, which was held in Nairobi, Kenya, from 20 to 21 January. The forum, which was held for the first time in the region brought together representatives and delegation from the ministry in charge of the employment and labor market of the IGAD member state and the East African community. The primary objective of his high-level regional ministerial meeting was to contribute to improve management of labor migration to ensure a safe, orderly, and regular migration in Africa. This commitment is in line with the relevant framework of the African Union and the regional economic communities, as well as relevant international human rights and labor standards and others cooperative process. This forum is part of most enables public policies dynamic aim at consulting with each other and enabling us to establish a bilateral agreement in terms of labor and employment of migrants. During this meeting, the minister gave a speech on our country's position on these very important issues, which is causing stir around to the walls on the sidelines of the forum. The Djiboutian delegation, which include the IOM country director of Mr. Ashraf Hassan, held a bilateral meeting with the IOM regional director Mohamed Abdi and the delegation led by His Excellency the Minister of Labor and Civil Service, Mr. Felix, and with the Kenyan Minister of Labor, Simon. Signing ceremony for the Nairobi Coast was held, where the head of participating delegation signed the Nairobi Coast. These officials hotels Hassan Basuma Hassan hosted this morning the Wednesday, January 22, departure ceremony at the location of Director of Security and Defense Corporation, Lieutenant General Thierry Marchand. Details in this report.
Hotel Hassan Basuma Hassan hosted this morning on Wednesday, January 22, 2020, a departure ceremony at this location of the Director of Security and Defense Corporation, Lieutenant General Thierry Marchand. Arrived for a 3-day working visit, General Thierry Marchand was able to meet the senior officials of different institutions that make up defense and security forces during his stay in Djibouti. In his trip, the French general was accompanied by Major General Eric Jenners, commander of the FFDG, Colonel Hugues de Rocomerle, military attaché, and Lieutenant Colonel Jean Christopher Berger, project manager for East Africa and Indian Ocean. On the Djiboutian side, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim was assisted by Major General Hassan Ali Kamil, SEMGA advisor Colonel Major Muhammad Kayet Gelle, head of the Logistics Division Colonel Muhammad Ilmi Abane, head of the Operations Division Colonel Wagdi Jami' Musa, head regiment headquarters and Field Protocol Chief, and Lieutenant Colonel Ibrahim Zakaria Sheikh, Director of International Relations.
Within the framework of a cooperation with France, General of Corps Marchand Thierry Marchand, commanding the Directorate for Security and Defense Corporation, paid a courtesy and contact visit to the ARTA, known as the AMIA Joint Military Academy, known as AMIA, hosted by Colonel Major Mohammed Ali Absiye, Director General of the AMIA. At the end of this reception, a presentation of the academic was made in the meeting room. Then a guide tour was planned for the General Thierry of the Academy's training facilitating, after which is the general address the cadets of four graduating classes in the amphitheaters. The visit was closed by the General Thierry Marchand and the Major Colonel Lode with the gift of the General signed the guest book. Launching was held at the signing hill Darta. Uh, the hotel. In an interview on national television, the French general expressed his thanks and appreciation to the director of the military academy of Arta for the hospitality, underlining the bilateral relation between the Republic of Djibouti and France and strong military cooperation. For his part, the director of Artai's Inter-Army Military Academy, Colonel Major Mohammed Ali Absiye, has emphasized the importance of the visit of the General Thierry Marchand to the academy, which translated the interest he attached to the friendship and the reinforcement of the existing bilateral relation and cooperation between Djibouti and France. With a view to the unemployability and professional integration of a disabled person instituted by law number 133 of January 22, 2006, in these articles 117 to 120, the company SARL, in collaboration with the National Agency for Disabled Persons, have proceeded with the first recruitment of 6 young disabled persons on Thursday, January 21. Took part in this event the Administrative and Human Resources Manager of the company, Mr. Ms. Khadra Saeed Ahmed, the head of the communication and market, Mr. Habib Saeed Ali, the technical advisor of the Director General of the National Agency for Disabled Persons, Mr. Mahad Ibrahim Hassan, the Director of Social Integration and Rehabilitation of the ANPH, Ms. Shukri Haji, and as well as the members of the ANPH. The purpose of this hearing ceremony is on to the hand is one hand to promote the participation and integration of a person with disabilities in the file of work. On the other hand, to respect the unemployability, to gradually face discrimination in hiring, and thus to improve access to employment opportunities for the person with disabilities in these private and public sectors. The ceremony closed with the continuity of action towards greater integration of the employability of disabled person in the industrial space and the exemplary action of the company DOS group in the file of a professional integration of people with special needs living in our country. Still on national news, the Administrative and Human Resources Manager of Jibah Company, Ms. Khadra Saeed Ahmed, and the Technical Advisor of the Director General of the ANPH, Mahad Ibrahim Hassan, expressed in his speech made on this occasion their joy to see disabled people working in a local company. This event strengthened the social inclusion of people with disabilities in our country. They also said the ANPH is committed to working closely with the social and with the society of Jibahas and to promote the political will focus on the issues of disability. On this occasion, the Administrative and Human Resources Manager of the company, Jibah, Ms. Khadra Saeed Ahmed, and the Technical Advisor of the Director General of the ANPH, Mahad Ibrahim Hassan, said they were pleased with these initiatives and expressed the wish to see the salutary commitment and company SARL to encourage mutual among others business and companies in the country. To finish our national news, we regret to inform you that the late Ali Bare Lale passed away yesterday. The disease, born in 1932, leaves a large family behind him, including a widow and 13 children. We offer our most heartfelt condolence and pray to the gods to grant him in his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. The news from the war in Lebanon, the government of Prime Minister Hassan Diab unveiled 3 months after the resignation of Saad Hariri. The Prime Minister Hassan Diab unveiled the composition of his government, which consists of 20 ministers. Details in this report.
After a little more than a month of tense political negotiations, the Lebanese government of Prime Minister Hassan Diab was finally announced on Tuesday evening, January 21. It is composed of 20 ministers, including 6 women equally divided between Christians and Muslims. Zain Akar becomes Minister of National Defense and Vice President of the Council. Nasif Haiti, former ambassador to the Arab League, will head Lebanese diplomacy. As for the portfolios of finance, interior and justice, they are respectively attributed to the economists Ghazi Wazni, Muhammad Fahmi, and Marie-Claude Najm. Hassan Diab, an engineering professor and former Minister of Education, has promised that his government, which he presents as a rescue team, will do everything possible to respond to the demands of the protest movement that has been agitating the country for more than 3 months and calling for an overhaul of political system.
This is it for this edition. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful evening.